Okay, so you've had a losing streak with your trading. I know it feels pretty frustrating and disheartening, right? But don't worry, it happens. What I'm going to do in this video is give you some practical advice for dealing with this situation so you can go away from here at the end feeling encouraged with the right perspective and a clear set of next steps to tackle the problem. If it's your goal to become a consistently profitable trader and to enjoy all of the benefits that can bring, then I'm sure you want to be seeing progress in your trading for all of the hard work that you're putting in, right? You want to feel like you know what you're doing and to feel good about yourself in this career that you've chosen. But then you hit the dreaded losing streak. Okay, so 1 or 2 losing trades here and there are fine, but when you hit 5 or so in a row, you start to question everything. You think, is it something that you're doing wrong? And every trade that you open, every loss that you endure, you start to feel more and more disheartened. The urge to revenge trade grows. You start to get this temptation all of the time to change your approach. Should you switch system? Are you doing the wrong thing? The negative spiral continues and you end up just making things worse and worse and worse. All right, I think you get the point, okay? Let's use this as an opportunity to take a step out of that situation and look at things objectively. Start breathing again, clear that cloud of confusion. What I'm going to do is give you a series of practical steps, and I want you to commit to putting as much effort into each of those steps as you've put into learning to trade in the first place. And by doing so, you'll regain control of this situation and inevitably get over this hump that you're going through at the moment. Okay, so you commit to that, complete these steps, and let's get started.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Hey, I didn't see you there. Let's go inside. So you want to learn to trade but you don't know where to start? Well, your search ends here. The Duomo Initiative has you covered with our free training. Everything you need to get on track for successful trading. 1 minute.
Yeah?
Nuno, quick. We need a video showing some of your trading. Okay, thanks. Woohoo!
Yeah?
Nuno, what are you doing? I said some of your trading, not social media trading. Can you... link available down below. Get started for free today. Okay, so step 1, the very first thing you need to do, obviously this is after hitting the like button on this video, is to figure out what phase you're at with your trading. Now, people learn in different ways, but there are definitely going to be the starting phases when you shouldn't really care about what results you're getting. Now, the way that we work at the Duomo Initiative is that we have a 3-phase plan. And phase 1 is all about just learning the tools and concepts. Because you see, if you're focused on learning things in the right way and going through each tool and concept individually and then together and so on, you shouldn't worry about what the outcome of using those tools is. That comes in phase 2 and phase 3 when you're first of all focused on achieving consistency and then achieving profitability. Now, you'll see a card somewhere up here, which is a link to a video where we discuss that in more detail. And if at the time you're watching this, we still have our free course online, we do discuss it there as well. So I'd recommend checking that out. But I'd say watch those and reflect on which phase you're really at and whether a losing streak actually matters or not, and whether it's something you even need to care about at all right now. If you reflect on that and realize that it's not something you need to care about right now, then just stop watching the video. Go and spend your time on something that's going to help you develop in the areas that matter right now. But if it is something that matters to you, if it is something you should be focused on, the results and the consistency, let's move on to step number 2. Okay, so step number 2 is a really easy one, but it does take quite some time to do it properly. And this is to figure out if the issue is coming from your system or you. So basically, is it human error or system error that's leading to the losses? So what you need to do is have your system written out in full. Okay, every individual step that you should be taking to be consistent. Now, you may have heard me talk about this in the past, so I'm not going to go into loads of detail about it, but almost like a flow diagram where you're going to do each decision you need to take, even to the most granular details. And then take all of your trades, winning ones and losing ones. We don't want to discriminate just based on what the outcome of the trade was, and run them through that system. and see whether you genuinely did do everything you were supposed to do in the right way, and try to be honest with yourself. If you've got someone that knows about trading, maybe get them to check so it can be completely objective and figure out whether you did all the steps. If you did, then you might see that these losses are coming because of your system. If you didn't, then they could be coming because of your own error. So now you know that it's because you're not sticking to your system, and that's something that you can address in isolation, that you need to figure out how you can be more disciplined to stick to your system. But if it is because of the system, then let's move on to step number 3. Now, in most cases, the problem that's leading to you having that losing streak will have been identified from those first few steps and maybe even resolved. But for those of you that have figured out that the problem is coming from your system rather than you or the phase you're in or other things, then it's time to figure out whether it actually is a problem at all. For that, I want to show you something on my screens, so let's go and have a look at that. So I've found that most traders completely underestimate the likelihood of having a sustained losing streak even within a profitable system, let alone a losing system or one that's around break even. I think one of the reasons for that is a lack of appreciation for probabilities, and a second is that people calculate the probabilities in the wrong way. Now, I'm really far from being mathematician of the year, so instead I always refer to this calculator that I came across many years ago. And basically, if I was having a losing streak, I'd just input the numbers and see the likelihood of that happening within the percentages that I would expect of my system. So let's say, for example, that we're looking at this over 100 trades. And let's say that I'm having a losing streak. I mean, I tend to find that most traders are bothered by 5 in a row. So let's say there's 5 losses in a row. Then we come to the loss probability. Now, if your trading approach is focusing on asymmetric risk returns, which most people are and most people should be, in other words, you're risking less, so if the trade loses, the amount you're losing is lower than the amount you're set to gain if the trade profits, like a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 and beyond, then if that is the case for you, the chances are you have a losing percentage, so your win rate will be below 50%. Why? Because the price has to move much further to hit your profit target than it does to hit your stop loss. So naturally, the percentages are going to be in favor of it hitting your stop loss first, even if you have an edge in the market. And that's the case for like 99.9% of systems, even profitable ones. So let's say that you have a 40% win rate, so your loss probability will be 60. And let's see, so out of 100 trades taken, 60% loss probability, how many times are you going to have a losing streak of 5 in a row? 97.58% chance of having 1 or more, 86.26% chance of having 2 or more, and even 63.06% chance of having 3 or more. So that's quite significant. It means it's highly likely that it could happen even in a profitable system. So let's say that we change this and actually your loss probability is 70% because you have a win rate of 30%. Now you can see how close to 100% chance it is of having even 2 or more streaks of 5 losses in a row. Or what about 3 or more? We even get down to 5 or more and it looks quite likely still there. So as you can see, when you have a losing streak, it doesn't necessarily mean that something's going wrong. It's just that if you have a win rate of 30%, 40%, even if your win rate is positive, so you're looking at a loss percentage of 40%, the chance of hitting those losing streaks are still relatively high. So this is something to keep in mind. Of course, it can be a problem having a losing streak and it might be an error that's causing it, but we shouldn't necessarily assume that. Sometimes it's just the inevitable part of focusing on something that doesn't have a 100% win rate. Okay, so let's say that we've identified there is a problem that's leading to these losing streaks. And that problem is either with your performance as a trader, maybe not sticking to your system, or it's with the system itself. Now, we want to avoid a situation, what we call throwing out the baby with the bathwater and just completely starting again, because you're probably doing a lot of things really well. And you don't want to sacrifice all of that just because you're starting to get confused and going in a downward spiral with these losses that you're having. Now, it's inevitable with a lot of new traders that they like to hop between systems when something's not working, but if you do that, you're always pretty much starting from square one, when in reality, the problem is often focused in one particular stage in your process. So this is what we need to do. We need to identify the particular step in your process that problem is coming from. Now, you might find that there are lots of problems, but not all of them are necessarily leading to you losing trades. There will often be one major problem and the rest can just be ignored for now until you want to optimize. Let's fix the problem that's leading to the losses. So you need to go through your system or go through the phases in your trade process, from analyzing the markets, market selection, breaking down a market to find an entry, entering the trade, position size, risk management, to the actual trade management, exiting the trade, maybe scaling in, scaling out, and then any admin or optimization you do afterwards to close the feedback loop and keep improving. So you can find which step in that process is where the problems lie, that is really that's what's leading to the losses happening. Now, there's no easy way to do this. It's not a one-size-fits-all type of thing because everyone trades in different ways and everyone has different sticking points and problems. The only way you can really overcome this is to dive into the data and to look at your trade journals. And if you haven't been journaling your trades, well, now you're starting to find out exactly why it's so important to do that. So maybe you can go back and look at the trades anyway, go back into your broker account, the history, click on the trade, see where you entered, break things down, and try to figure out which step actually caused the problem. Maybe your analysis of the market was fine and everything after the entry was fine, but it was actually the point of entry itself that caused the issue. Maybe it was something to do with the stop losses, the risk management. See if you can find that root cause, and that's what we're going to focus on. So step 5 is that we now need to come up with a logical course of action to fix that issue, that particular issue. Not everything in our trading, that particular thing. And the key word here is logical. Okay, so whatever the problem is, I want you to come up with a solution or some way that you can overcome this issue that's going to be logical and actually lead to results. For example, let's say that you're having position sizes that are too big. What's something that you can do that is logically going to help you to fix that problem? Is it checklists? Is it risk parameters? Is it some sort of rules or restrictions you can set on yourself to help you to rein that in? Is it something that you're consistently doing wrong in the heat of the moment? In that case, set up specific deliberate practice sessions to try and aim to fix that particular problem. Now, I can't tell you what this is going to be, but I would recommend speaking to whoever you're learning from. If you're learning with me, if you're a premium member, then ask us inside our app, in the community app. Or if you're learning on your own, you're just going to have to figure it out. It's not easy, and step 4 and step 5 here, you might think, well, that's easier said than done. But that's one of the things about trading, is that it is complex, it is tricky, there are many different ways to do it, and if you want to be a great trader, you need to be a good problem solver. And this is a problem that you've identified, and now you need to think of a logical way to solve that problem. And actually, once you break down this whole process to find where that problem lies, it's sometimes much easier than you think to actually fix it. Sometimes you could just find a workaround or a different way to approach your system that completely avoids that situation in the first place. So find a logical course of action and set yourself an action plan to fix it. And that brings us on to step 6, which is the final step, and that is to make sure that you're measuring it in the right way. What measure can you use to see whether that problem's being solved or not? You see, a lot of people just default to using their profit and loss and seeing if their profit and loss increases, if they're making more profits, then their problems are solved. But that's not necessarily the case. That's falling into the trap of resulting, where you look at the outcome of what you're doing and determine whether your decision making and your approach was correct or not based on the outcome. But that's not taking into account whether it was good decision making, sticking to a system, and so on. So instead, find a measure that's going to show you whether that particular issue that you identified in isolation is actually improving. Is it something to do with your drawdown? Is it a number of mistakes? Is it number of hours spent doing something? Is it the output you have in terms of trading journal, or whatever it might be? What is a measure that you can take, that you can measure now as a baseline, and say 3 months from now, when you've worked on this action plan, you can see if there's been a meaningful material improvement in that particular area of your trading. And then of course the profit and loss is going to increase as a byproduct of that, but you can only get there by understanding if the issues that you're identifying are truly being solved or not. So hopefully now you feel a little bit more in control and a little bit less confused, at least knowing that there are these steps you can take to really address the problem. So let's quickly recap those steps so you don't forget them, and then we'll wrap things up. The first step was about realizing what phase you're in with your trading development to see whether this is even an issue right now or not. Then step 2 is to figure out whether the issue is with the system or with you and your performance, something that you're doing or whether it's something the system's doing. Step 3 is that if the issue is with the system, is it actually an issue, or is it just part of the probabilities of your system playing out? Step 4 is that if it is actually an issue, whether that's from your system or your performance as a trader, what stage in your process is this issue coming from? We don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Step 5 is to think of a logical course of action to fix that issue. And if you're learning with someone, rely on them to help you with this if it's their method that you're learning and you're using. And then the final step is to make sure that you're measuring the issue in the correct way. Isolate the problem and measure that isolated problem. Alright guys, so obviously by following these steps, there's no absolute guarantee that you're going to fix the problem immediately, but at least you're going to get back control over the situation, stop feeling frantic, stop feeling disheartened, stop being in this downward negative spiral, start to feel like you have a plan to get yourself back on track and start seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Now, it might be that by going through these steps, you just realize that the way that you're trading isn't going to work out. And if that's the case, you might be in need of a complete reboot with how you're trading, and so be it. These things suck. It doesn't feel good to be learning something that doesn't end up working out, but you'd rather know now than spending more and more years learning something that's not going to work out for you. So if you do want to learn the way that I trade, we've got our free training in the description box down below, so make sure you go and check that one out. And let me know in the comment section if you follow these steps, if you go through it all, and how it works out for you. And if there are any other topics or things you want me to go into deeper, whether it's related to this or something completely unrelated, leave me a comment below letting me know. If you like this video and you want more practical ones like this, then do hit the thumbs up button, the like button to let me know about that. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future videos. And in fact, speaking of other videos of ours, there's a little playlist on screen which I think you might appreciate. It's about trading psychology, which is often related to losing streaks. So check that one out, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care.